And I will show signs and wonders in heaven above, and signs in the earth beneath, blood and fire, and vapor of smoke. Luke 21:25. And there shall be signs in the sun, and in the moon, and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations, with perplexity, the sea and waves roaring. Genesis 1:14. And God said, Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven, to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs, and for seasons, and for days and years. And finally, Jeremiah 10:2. Thus saith the Lord, Learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. Okay, so you see, family, the heavens is God's creation, and the heavens are under the jurisdiction of the Most High God. And history has shown us that the Most High God uses signs in the sky to relay warnings. So, what does this upcoming American eclipse on April 8, 2024 mean for the United States of America? Well, I have an answer to that question, but first, I have some interesting facts concerning this eclipse. Now, this is some very intriguing information I'm about to give you, so family, check this out. Okay, here's the first bit of information. Now, this solar eclipse will come 7 years after the last solar eclipse in America, which took place on August 21st, 2017. Now, the eclipse in 2017 started in Salem, Oregon, and exited America in Salem, South Carolina. Now, Salem is associated with witchcraft and sorcery. And this upcoming 2024 eclipse will start in Texas and exit in northeastern America. And both these eclipses make an X across America. Now, if you look on your screen right here, you'll see what I'm talking about. So family, we have two solar eclipses that are 7 years apart that make an X across America. Interesting, right? Okay, now for number 2. Alright guys, check this out. Maximum totality for this eclipse will be 4 minutes and 28 seconds, or 268 seconds. Now the number 268 in the Strong's Greek means sinful, or falling short of what God approves. Now it seems like to me the Most High is sending a message. Let me ask you a question. As a whole, do you think America is sinful and falls short of God's will? Now family, I don't think it's a coincidence that this solar eclipse will last 268 seconds, and 268 in Strong's Greek means sinful. Interesting, right? Okay, now to number 3. So we discussed how these two eclipses will make an X across America, and the point where these two eclipses will meet is Cedar Lake in Jackson County, Illinois. And the spot where these two eclipses will meet to make the X has quite a nickname to it. It's called Little Egypt. Family, you can't make this stuff up. And the way that town got its nickname has a biblical source. So in the mid-19th century, there was a famine in northern Illinois. But in southern Illinois, there was no famine, and they had a huge harvest. And the residents of Cedar Lake said they felt like the children of Jacob, who during a time of famine was forced to go down to Egypt to obtain food. So for this reason, Cedar Lakes, where this eclipse will meet the 2017 eclipse to make an X, is known as Little Egypt. So is this eclipse a warning that the Most High God is about to deal with America the same way he did with the Egyptians? Interesting, right? Okay, family, now for number 4. Now, these two American eclipses fall 7 years apart. Now, we know 7 is a number we find a lot in our Bible. 7 seals, 7 vials, 7 bowls, 7-year tribulation, and on the 7th day, the Most High God rested. Now, 7 is also seen as the number of completion. But if you go to the Strong's Hebrew, the number 7 means to destroy or to perish. Once again, not a coincidence, family. Interesting, right? Now for number 5. This eclipse will be the most viewed eclipse ever. And I base this on 4 factors. Number 1, the attention media will give this event. Number 2, the superb coverage of the highway system in America. Number 3, usually on April 8th, the weather is nice and will give a great view. Number 4, streaming of the eclipse online. after this eclipse, the next American eclipse will be in 2044, which I'm sure we will not be here at that point. Now, family, there's a reason this will be the most viewed eclipse ever. God's wanting Americans to see this eclipse because it's a warning. But a warning of what? You may be asking yourself that question. And family, let's dive into that now.
Spoke about nearly 6 years ago, I spoke about the warning God is giving. I believe the last warning that America has is the Great American Solar Eclipses. And the first one crossed the continental United States on the 21st of August, 2017. And I was right there in Houston, Texas, saying, this is not a good sign. An eclipse, the sun, something bright, something that's giving life and energy and food to the whole world through photosynthesis, it gets darkened. It's always been an omen. It's always been a dark sign for the Gentiles. And the lunar eclipses are omens to the nation of Israel. That's how it's worked all through history. They don't all have meaning, but when they coincide with either Hebrew feasts or they write out something special, which I'm going to tell you, it's not only it's writing out an X over 7 years over America, it's doing something more than that. On the 8th of April 2024, another total solar eclipse is going to cross the continental United States in an opposite way. So one's going this way, the other one's going that way. It produces an X right at the Madrid fault line in America, which is a subduction zone, an earthquake zone. It draws an X right over America. That's not good. You don't want a target on you. Watch any movie, you do not want to have a target on you. And it looks like, boom, there's a target right on America. But there is some kind of a hope. There's an allusion to hope in this, because it turns out through, I'm going to give credit to Michael Snyder. He seems to be the first one going on the internet to share this image. There is another annular solar eclipse. So it's not a full total solar eclipse, but it's kind of like that ring eclipse. It's called annular solar eclipse. It's going to go from Oregon to Texas on the 14th of October this month. And because of that extra line, what it spells out is not just the X, like a target or like a cross, but it spells out the Aleph, which is the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet. And that's what God calls himself. He says, I am the Aleph and the Taf, the Alpha and the Omega. And the letter Alpha is spelled out over the continental United States over 7 years. It takes God 7 years to write one letter. Think about that. I mean, just before we even get into the meaning of what this is, think about that. God takes 7 years from 2017 to 2023 or 2024 and writes one single letter that represents the ox, the strength of God, or the sacrifice of God. We just read about that. The sacrifice is Jesus Christ. The Alpha is Jesus Christ. And he puts that one letter over the greatest nation on earth, the nation that's supposed to be the most Christian, the most missionary producing nation on earth. And he writes one letter. What does that tell you? Number one, if nothing else, we should learn God is patient. God is patient. I don't think any one of us in human history has taken 7 years to write one letter. Number two, God is not verbose. If you're expecting an encyclopedia, you're expecting the whole A to Z plan of your life to be revealed before you will step out and obey God, you're mistaken. God is not verbose. He's not going to say a lot. And in this case, he says one letter, Aleph. There it is. Take it and read it. Aleph is spelled over America. I guess America would start out with Aleph. America is Aleph as well. You also will find that when God speaks, it is often easy to miss. Even though God would write the first letter of the alphabet right over the nation that he's giving his last warning, many people are going to miss it. Some people watch this video. A lot of people will never get to it. It'll be available online unless somebody deletes it or YouTube censors it. But other than that, it's there. But many Americans will miss a perfectly divine sign from God. It's easy to miss. And yet, when you have your eyes open, his message is the most obvious. You would say, how could anyone miss it? It's unmissable. When we look back in eternity, from eternity future, and look back over our days, we'll say, how did we miss the last warning that God gave to America? How did we stay so complacent? How did we act the same? How did we give the same, talk the same? How do we do that? God was so clear in warning. Well, that's clear when your eyes are open, right? When you're born again, especially when you're spirit-filled and listening to the Holy Spirit, wow, these things become obvious. So God's voice and God's leading becomes more and more unmissable as you grow in the Spirit. That's important, right? But that's just some things that I got from these 3 solar eclipses. I believe that America is being called with a final calling to a great awakening. The Aleph is a much better sign than just an X marks the spot. The Aleph is a sign of hope to me that America can have its last great awakening before the second coming. And of course, before the second coming, there's going to be tribulation, the Antichrist, and a lot of suffering for people. So, what do we do?